The rain delays are a distant memory. The sun is shining at Donington, and round 2 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship promises to be a race of huge significance. Let's join Tim Harvey and David Addison.
The grid then is formed for the second race of the day. The sun is shining, the road is dry, it's another jumbled grid. It's got Tom Ingram on pole position, but now we start to factor in proper dry running, but also the hybrid allocation for the first time this season. And of course, Tom Ingram, as that race 1 winner, has far less hybrid to use than anybody else.
Well, this is the race I wanted to see. Everybody on the same tyre, because there's no option tyre this weekend. But now we see the benefit or not of having the new hybrid availability for this year. So double the amount of hybrid that was available last year as a combination of electric power and boost, and also a difference in the deployment speed. So the ones at the front, for example, Sutton and Ingram, only have 1 or 2 laps of hybrid use respectively, and a much higher speed at which they can deploy it. Those from 8th on down, or Dan Camish, could deploy it earlier and have more laps to use it. So we should see if it makes a difference to the rating.
And drivers will tell you how much more of an impact the hybrid makes this year. So stand by. First, let's have a look at the grid. Tom Ingram is on pole. Ash Sutton lines up second. Jake Hill will start third ahead of Colin Turkington. Ronan Pearson goes from 5th. And Josh Cook is 6th, ahead of Aaron Taylor-Smith and then Dan Camish. Next up, Aidan Moffat and Andrew Watson. The 6th row, Tom Chilton and Mikey Doble, ahead of Darren De Leon and the penalised Adam Morgan. He drops down the order as a legacy of an out-of-position start in race 1. Chris Smiley, 15th, ahead of Nick Halstead, then Scott Sumpton. Rob Huff, again with work to do from 18th. Sam Osborne, 19th. And Dan Rowbottom goes from 20th. He was given a 3-place grid drop because of his part in the incident with Mikey Doble and Rob Huff in the earlier race, but all it will do is put him behind Sam Osborne. So he's got the work to do from 20th. Everybody's on that medium tyre. This is how much hybrid they've got. 1 lap for Ingram, 2 for Sutton, 3 for Hill, 4 for Turkington, 5 for Ronan Pearson, 6 for Josh Cook, 7 for Aaron Taylor-Smith, and everybody else has the 8 laps maximum use of the hybrid. It is an 18-lap race. It is now, thankfully, a dry circuit. You wouldn't recognise Donington now from what we had early on this morning with the hours of rain and the waterlogged circuit and runoff areas. And now, of course, we're looking forward to what promises to be a really interesting race, and when and how Tom Ingram is going to use that hybrid allocation. He's going to have to be very feisty indeed to try to outpace Ash Sutton. But do we look further back down the grid to find a potential winner, like a Josh Cook maybe, with 6 laps of use available? Yes,
Josh Cook, a Dan Camish. It'll all depend on when they use their hybrid.
Yep.
If they're using it on the same lap, then it will be very little difference. But with such a small availability of hybrid at the front, there are going to be inevitably laps where those behind will have it and they won't. And that's what we want to see, whether it really makes a difference in terms of push to pass.
So, up to the grid they come then. You're riding on board with Ash Sutton. Remember, it is this 1-by-1 staggered grid formation, so Tom Ingram, as the pole man, has that 1-length car advantage as he will slot into position. Rowbottom to look for from 20th, Huff to look for from 18th, and Adam Morgan, like race 1, again at the back of the grid, or near the back of the grid, up for 14th. So there's a lot to look for. They've got the full 8 laps of hybrid use, and we are almost set, ready to go racing. There is Robo coming out of the chicane. Dan Rowbottom for Napa Racing UK. Tough first day for the man that was on pole position for the first race of this event 12 months ago. But let's see what progress can be made. The same is true of Rob Huff, who had another sort of yo-yo race, made progress, then had that bit of contact that put him through the gravel and dropped down the order. So not the ideal start to his 2024 season either. Everybody then in place, with the exception of Sam Osborne, whose car is missing, not repaired after its big accident in race 1. Lights go red, round 2 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship is go. Good start by Jake Hill, as you might anticipate. Gets ahead of Sutton. Turkington up on the inside, but he gets the door closed in his face. Hill round the outside of Ingram. Ingram keeps on coming, but Jake Hill has done it from 3rd on the grid to lead into turn 1. Great start.
But they'll be attacking him round the rest of the lap, seeing if he's got his tyres up to temperature. Remember that huge lockup that Jake Hill had in practice in qualifying with the cold front tyres. They know he's vulnerable, Ingram and Sutton, on lap 1.
But Jake Hill leads the way then, as you're on board with Chris Smiley coming down now towards the old hairpin. Half ahead. Accelerate out of the right-hander, speed building. The road climbs uphill now as they go up towards Schwantz Curve. Hill leading the way then in 2nd place, Ingram. third, it is Sutton, and the lock-up was from Turkington.
It was Turkington with the cold fronts that had the lock-up early on. That'll give him a lack of confidence for the rest of the lap and breaking into the chicane, and immediately past him comes Josh Cook.
So Cook, remember, with 6 laps of hybrid use at his disposal, gains a place from Colin Turkington as the 3 leaders drop down to the chicane. Jake Hill is the leader, second is Tom Ingram, third Ash Sutton, small gap back to Cook, fourth, Turkington fifth, Pearson is sixth, Aaron Taylor-Smith seventh, Aidan Moffat is eighth. This is Huff, who's dropped behind Rowbottom. Look as they come out of the chicane, up the road ahead, Chilton busy battling, you've got Darrell De Leon in there as well, Nick Halstead's trying to make progress, Rowbottom to the inside as they head now into the braking zone for Redgate. There's a big dive on the inside line there, so you've got Camish trying to make progress as well. Just about everywhere there's a good battle raging on, but Hill at the end of lap 1 was 0.3 of a second to the good. Ingram is staying with him.
Good first lap from Hill. He made that fantastic start. I had visions of Ash Sutton getting turned around. Remember, it was where Ash Sutton got turned around last year here off the start line with Hill going for a gap. But they all got through cleanly, and Hill made a great first lap and is still in the lead, but under huge pressure. But maybe Sutton will be his saving grace. If Sutton gets really gets into the back of Ingram, it'll give Hill an opportunity to make a break. This is with Huff.
Going into Redgate, Darrell De Leon on the left, Dan Rowbottom ahead, and the door opens up, and Rob Huff tries to get alongside the Napa Ford as they get to the top of the Craner curves. Rowbottom just edges back ahead of him as they drop down the hill there.
Yeah, couldn't tell at that point whether either was using the hybrid or not. The Huff looking right out. Oh, great move down the inside into the old airpin. The door opened up for him perfectly, and he didn't run wide at all on the exit. That would have really surprised Rowbottom.
Fastest lap, Dan Camish running in 8th place. There, look, Colin Turkington versus Ronan Pearson as they come onto the top of the Craner curves. Josh Cook is another one on a mission, and he's closing on that leading 3-way battle because Jake Hill is not getting away from Ingram, who is not getting away from Sutton, but Josh Cook 4th is edging closer. Turkington 5th, Pearson is 6th. Taylor-Smith was 7th over the line. Then it was Camish, Moffat and Watson to round out the top 10. Huff in the meantime up to 14th.
Yeah, none of the top 3 cars have used any of their hybrid. They're keeping that until later in the race, but it will be and Hill has more, of course, than Ingram and Sutton, having started behind them.
Through Coppice they turn. Onto Starkey Straight, Aaron Taylor-Smith versus Dan Camish. So Camish from 8th place, charges on, comes out of the corner on a tighter line, tries to make a move against the Powermax Racing Vauxhall Astra as they come now down towards the chicane. It was Camish that did the fastest lap last time through. Now he's got traffic all around him. Out of the chicane comes the race leader, though, Jake Hill. He will head over the timing line, still being chased by Ingram, and the margin is 4/10. Hill now does the fastest lap of the race as he goes by. Adam Morgan's into the top 10. So that's another driver trying to make amends for a lowly grid position, and the leading 3 covered by 7/10 of a second. Lap 4 then as they head down the hill, and dare one suggest this time that Jake Hill is just ever so slightly further away.
He's certainly got it comfortable, but I think those front 3 are just biding their time a little bit. They can know this is a relatively long race. They're going to build a little bit of a gap in front of Cook and Turkington, and then fight it out amongst themselves maybe a little bit later.
On board with Sutton, into Coppice, turn right. The wheel-lifting Hyundai ahead is that of Tom Ingram. Jake Hill still in the lead of the race, of course, and trying to edge clear as best he can. Look back now from Ingram's car. Ash Sutton is behind as they head towards the chicane at the end of lap number 4. Behind them, you've got Turkington 5th, you've got Pearson 6th, then Taylor-Smith, Camish, Moffat and Morgan to round out the top 10. Out of the chicane, oh so close to the tar stack. Ash Sutton up towards the line. Jake Hill still leads the way, and the battle lower down the order now. Rowbottom is not only ahead of Huff once again, but also they both jumped Andrew Watson.
Yeah, they both got through, so some Toyotas going forward and some not so.
Rowbottom and Huff seem to have spent most of the day together, but as they come through, Andrew Watson back ahead of Huff as they went over the line. So Rob ends up dropping down into 15th place. Rowbottom 13th, and Andrew Watson, who was 6th on the grid for race 1, remember, has had a pretty tough day. Sutton really quick out of the old hairpin. Now plans a move against Ingram. Almost level with him on the inside for Schwantz Curve. If he can't get the job done, he'll be on the outside for McLean's. Job almost done. Leans on Ingram. Back through goes the Hyundai, side by side into the corner, and it's Sutton that gets roughed up. That's another statement of intent, isn't it, from Ingram? I want this title this year. Take that.
Yeah, let's see if Sutton was using the hybrid on this lap. I was trying to see whether that was what was giving him that advantage. I think he is. Sutton's been using it on this lap. He's only had one lap. Is that Ronan Pearson?
Yeah, I think it is. He's gone off the road, finds a big puddle and a bigger puddle and another one, and hopefully can get himself off that friction-free grass. He's just about done it, but Ronan Pearson, who was in 6th place, tumbles down the order. And Jake Hill now has got away, hasn't he, by over a second. Ingram and Sutton together for 2nd place. Cook 4th, Turkington 5th, Taylor Smith up into the top 6 now. Camish is 7th, then it's Moffat, Morgan and Doble to round out the top 10. Fastest lap, Dan Rowbottom.
Yeah, well, Hill used his hybrid on that last lap, built a little bit of a gap. He's got a second now. Obviously, there's a bit of squabbling between Ingram and Sutton, but you're right. Ingram's showing he's not going to be pushed over by Sutton this year.
And another good little fight here, look, is Dan Camish all over the back of Aaron Taylor-Smith. Nose to tail on the run up towards McLean. To the inside line goes Camish, he goes through. There was room given to him, but Aaron Taylor-Smith looks for the switchback coming out of the corner. Camish covers off the line and hangs on to the pace. Ronan Pearson, by the way, into the pit lane after his the waterlogged moment coming out of Coppit on that previous lap. So currently lap 6 almost completed, and Hill still leads the way, and the advantage is a second and a bit now from Ingram and then Sutton.
Yeah, big patch of water, look on the track there, that they're trying, some cars are avoiding, some aren't. That's where Ronan Pearson came back on with his water-cooled car and dragged a load of water back on the track. They've closed back up, look, they closed back up behind Hill. On that lap, they were actually quicker by 0.3 of a second than Hill.
Camish into the top 6, still pushing, still one to watch. Huff and Watson there go through, with Watson 13th and Rob Huff in 14th place. Those two Toyotas not making the progress that one might have anticipated.
No, seem to be just lacking outright pace. Don't forget, everybody is now in their full dry setup, full race setup. Not everyone might have done race distances in testing, so they may be finding the balance now in the race that's not to their liking, but certainly not as much pace out of those Toyotas as we'd have hoped.
Josh Cook is the trailblazer, albeit not in the works colours. He is in 4th place. You're riding with Sutton, that's Ingram ahead. Dan Rowbottom, still the man with the quickest lap of the race to his name. That's why he's got that little purple flash on the timing tower as he comes then, following the rest, towards the chicane, out of which Jake Hill leads. Ingram is 2nd, Sutton is 3rd. They traded 2nd place, and it's Ingram fending Sutton off for the moment as over the timing line they go. 4th, Josh Cook, who's not quite there yet. 5th is Turkington, banking points. 6th is Dan Camish. And behind him, you've got Taylor Smith 7th, Moffat 8th, Morgan 9th, Mikey Doble 10th.
And the quickest man on that last lap was Colin Turkington. As always, he keeps his powder dry, builds and builds, and he was now the fastest man on the track.
Right, in the Corolla Club, this is Rob Huff having a go at his teammate Andrew Watson. Gap on the inside line up towards Coppice, dives through, goes by, but there's a lot of real estate to make up on the traffic ahead. And coming out of Redgate on the start of this lap, Rowbottom was having to go at Chiltern for 11th place. Wait to see, wait to see, wait to see. He's not done it yet.
Yes, the leading Toyotas are actually Cook and Moffat, aren't they, in the 2 satellite Toyotas.
There is Moffat in the middle of all of that. And on the back of this train is Rowbottom, all over the back of Chiltern, who in turn is on the tail of Doble. So this little fight is for 10th, 11th and 12th places. Chiltern goes one way, Rowbottom to the inside line, gets a face full of Vauxhall, can't find a way through there. Further up the road, look, you've got the Aaron Taylor-Smith Vauxhall fending them all off. And in the end, there's no change. Mikey Doble actually was able to keep Chiltern at bay, and Chiltern in turn kept Rowbottom behind him. And now, all of a sudden, Rob Huff is back at the races. He's caught them up, hasn't he, with the hybrid use, and comes up and finally gets himself past Rowbottom.
Yeah, that would have been absolute glee for Huff, watching that kick off in front of him at the chicane. He would have known if he got a good clean run through, he'd have had the run on them, which is exactly what he did have.
So down through the Craners they come once more. So there you can see is Aaron Taylor-Smith on the tail of Aidan Moffat, but what that means is they've traded places. So Moffat now is up into 7th. You've got Adam Morgan on the back of this train as well, almost pushing the Vauxhall along. Lap 9 we're on out of the 18. Now up towards McLean's. ATS, Aaron Taylor-Smith defends, but if Morgan gets a tight line out of the corner, he might get the run on the inside heading to Coppice. He thinks about it, but Taylor-Smith knows what's coming and moves across to defend.
Yeah, it's interesting, that run between McLean's and Coppice, it's usually a difficult place to pass, but the cars which have got hybrid have got just enough oomph to get up the inside before they get to Coppice and turn in, so it's definitely become an overtaking place for people using the hybrid.
Through the chicane, there again, Huff, Rowbottom, Watson still arguing over position, and although Huff jumped ahead of the Napa Racing Ford, he's not been able to gap him as yet, so Rowbottom is doing his best to fight back. Huff has got 5 laps of hybrid left to Rowbottom's 3, so it's advantage Huff in that respect as they come now out of the right of Redgate towards the top of the Craner curves. Meantime, Jake Hill leads. It's a slender margin of 0.6 of a second. Ingram has not yet used his lap of hybrid. Sutton has used 1 of his 2 laps, and Jake Hill has used 1 of his 3 laps.
Correct. And I think Cookie is using hybrid this lap as well. I saw the light flash. See if he can close in that gap towards Sutton. Darrell de Leon going round the outside of Chris Smiley. Down side by side, down the Craner curves. De Leon has the inside and Smiley has to give him that place.
Both Cooper Leons, but run by different teams. So the Duckham's Racing with Bartercard entry ahead of the Restart Racing car. Right, has Andrew Watson got himself up past Rowbottom as well on this lap? Looks like he has, so we've got 2 of the Toyotas now ahead of the Ford, or both of the Toyota Gazoo Racing UK Toyotas ahead of the Napa Racing Ford, and Smiley has got himself back ahead of De Leon, look, as they come to the chicane. Leaders go through, and the lead gap is down from 0.6 to half a second. Ingram is still second to Hill, and then third is Sutton, 4th Cook, 5th Turkington, and 6th is Camish. And this was the Rowbottom versus Watson fight, and it got a little bit messy coming into Coppice, and as Rowbottom went wide, door open.
Yeah, just tangled as Rowbottom tried to move back across to take the line and caught the rear of his car across the front. That gave him a little wiggle, which was enough to leave the door open.
So Aidan Moffat versus Adam Morgan, who of course used to be teammates in Sicily Mercedes days, but now Toyota versus BMW. Morgan looking really quick here. That's another rapid rear-wheel drive BMW. Is there going to be a margin to put that car on the inside coming into Coppice? Answer, no. Moffat holding him up a little bit, so Adam Morgan has got to get on with the job if he can. He needs a good exit from Coppice and then line up to have a go down to the chicane. Behind them, you've got the 2 Vauxhalls and then a rapidly closing Rob Huff, who, as the race wears on, is getting faster and faster, it seems.
Yeah, seems to be liking the balance of his car a bit more now as the race goes on.
The lead gap's coming down as well from 0.6 to 5 to 3. Hill to Ingram, getting a replay here on board with Rob Huff, going up towards McLean's, catching the traffic under braking and just charging all the way. And that was Tom Chilton with black smoke being belched out of the side. He pulls to one side and that's his race done by the look of it.
Another mechanical woe for Tom Chilton. It's been a weekend to absolutely forget for him mechanically. He came in with so much optimism about the weekend, really confident, but it's all been quashed with mechanical woes, unfortunately for him.
Back on board with Sutton, so the lead 3 still covered by only 0.8 of a second. And of course now we've got less than 7 laps to go. The number of laps then ticking down all the while. The order is Hill, Ingram, Sutton, Cook, Turkington, Camish, who's sort of plateaued in 6th a bit now. Then you've got the Moffat-Morgan fight going on, and all the while you've got Rob Huff edging his way through the traffic. And then of course we start to think about who's going to be at the front for that reverse grid draw. We don't know what the number is going to be yet, but the race 3 semi-reverse grid is always a fascinating one. Ronan Pearson has done the fastest lap of the race. Not anymore, he's not. Dan Camish has just done the fastest lap of the race as he comes charging along behind Colin Turkington, but the recovering Ronan Pearson for a brief moment had done the fastest lap. Now for the race lead, look at this. Tom Ingram closer than ever to the back of Jake Hill's car. The margin was 0.26 of a second as they came over the line, and Ash Sutton is closing as well. So very definitely now 3 for the lead.
These 3 in 3 different cars looking so evenly matched, aren't you? Jake Hill in the rear-wheel drive BMW, Tom Ingram in the Hyundai front-wheel drive, and Ash Sutton, the reigning champion, in his front-wheel drive Focus, but they all look so equally matched.
So the race leaders then come now out of the right-hander of Coppice, down towards the chicane, and all of them trying to keep as much hybrid as they can for late in the race. Jake Hill has 2 laps worth to use, 1 lap still for Tom Ingram. the one lap for Tom Ingram and one of the 2 available laps for Ash Sutton, who is really quick out of the chicane this time. Here is Rob Huff making a move, diving up on the inside, clears one of the Vauxhalls, and that therefore moves him ahead of Mikey Doble. So Hill, Ingram, Sutton, 'twas ever thus for the lead. 4th is Cook, coming under pressure from Turkington. 5th, Camish is there 6th. Now Ingram, look at this, up the curve, tries to get alongside Jake Hill, going towards Hollywood. He's got the quicker line, he's got the tighter line, and he's got the lead as well. Ingram goes through, fantastic.
That was a great move. And look, Sutton's going to slide down the inside as well. Hit a wounded man when he's down. Strike when the going is good, because Hill being overtaken by 1 left him vulnerable, of course, to Sutton. Great driving.
But look at that, Ingram already is away and gone. Sutton might be able to go after him, as he had to get past Jake Hill, but suddenly Ingram's found himself with a gap, and while that's been going on, we've got, look, 4th, 5th and 6th. Josh Cook under massive attack now from Colin Turkington. Camish is right there as well. We've had Ronan Pearson do the fastest lap of the race. We've got Adam Morgan up to 7th at the expense of Aidan Moffat. So that Toyota has dropped a place. There's another Toyota here in jeopardy, because the BMW of Colin Turkington is thinking about where it might be able to go by. Down they come into the braking zone now for the chicane. This is a race that's building up nicely. It gets better and better as the race wears on.
Well, Turkington is seeing Camish coming, and he doesn't want to end up fighting a rear guard action. He wants to be able to attack. So if he's going to attack Cook, he needs to do it soon. Aaron Taylor-Smith getting very wide, coming out of the chicane, and through goes Rowbottom.
Does indeed, goes into the top 10 therefore. Front right corner of Rob Huff's car looking a bit battle-scarred, isn't it, as they come down the hill. But for how much longer can Josh Cook hang on then to 4th place? He and Turkington only have a lap of hybrid left each, so they're level in terms of that. Camish right there behind them in 6th place. Power on now up the hill. Lap 15 of the 18. Toyota, BMW, Ford not far behind. Turkington closing, and Camish really good on the brakes out of nowhere, right onto the back of Turkington.
And Camish has more hybrid available than any car in front of him. Ingram used his hybrid that lap when he got past, got the lead. He used it well there coming out of Redgate to get the lead. That's how he got that gap so quickly. But he's got no hybrid left.
Change for 2nd, Hill back ahead of Sutton, and this might help Ingram. If they start squabbling and holding each other up, Ingram can get away potentially. Over the line they come then now, side by side. Hill will have the inside for Redgate. 3 laps to go. Sutton on the outside, goes back ahead, retakes 2nd place then as they come over the line. He's done it, Sutton's back up ahead. What about 4th? It's Cook just, then Turkington 5th. Camish is 6th and looking for a way by. Yeah,
and Sutton was using his hybrid then. We are definitely seeing overtaking as a result of the hybrid push to pass bonus.
And Camish wants to use that as he finds a way past Turkington, but Turkington equally wants to get past Josh Cook. So Ingram then, with no more hybrid available, has an advantage of 11/10 of a second up front. Camish trying to find a way past Turkington. The danger here is that Cook is escaping, so Dan has got to get on with this. He knows it. Can he find a way through on the inside as they come out of McLean's?
Well, this is where I said that the hybrid could make a difference. It doesn't on this lap, but Camish will have it for each of the remaining laps.
And while all that's going on, 4th, 5th and 6th, Ash Sutton has been given a driving standards flag, possibly for track limit abuses, therefore, as down they come into the chicane. So this is for 4th. It's Cook, Turkington, and again, really good on the brakes, Dan Camish. Maybe that car isn't as good in a straight line, because it seemed to fall back a bit from Turkington, but he's very good on the brakes, as we've seen before. Over the line they come. There's only 2 laps to go. Turkington right there behind Cook as they head to Redgate. Outside line into the corner. Look again, Camish on the brakes, suddenly right back with them. Turkington on the outside, Camish on the in, can't do it. Turkington finds, yet again, the Toyota in his path as they head now into Hollywood.
Such a good battle between them. I'm sure Turkington was using his hybrid last lap. He's got none left at all now. Camish is showing 2 laps of hybrid. Is the light flashing? It's not. But he's got up the inside, but we've seen this move before, but Turkington can defend it going into McLean's because he has the inside line, and Camish doesn't quite have enough oomph to get back up the inside as closing the door. What about the switch back from Camish as they come onto the straight?
Well, this time Turkington's got that covered as well, and of course while they squabble, Cook's getting away a little bit, so they're delaying themselves. Camish wants the place, Turkington wants to hang on to it. and Cook's getting away. So he's heading for fourth, potentially, but the leaders are about to come onto the last lap. As they come over the line then, it is Ingram to Sutton, 7/10, and then Jake Hill another 7/10 back. So Jake's BMW has dropped away a little bit, interestingly. It's faded slightly, you could argue, as the race has gone on. There he is, look, third. He started with more hybrid allocation, but he's been jumped by Ingram and by Sutton, and it looks as though points for third is as good as it's going to get. And now, look, Camish has got the row-bottom bonnet. In other words, the left front is peeling back like he did for row-bottom in race one. And now he's got to really hope that with half a lap to go, the wind doesn't get under that, rip the bonnet up and smash the windscreen, and he's in all sorts of trouble. So Camish now just needs to bring that home.
Well, he would get the mechanical flag at the next lap, but it doesn't matter. This is the last lap. He's backed off a little bit anyway. I think Allied Racing need to look at their bonnet pins a little bit, because that wasn't a result of a big amount of contact. But what a fantastic result for Ingram. He's shown he's got the pace. He had the least amount of hybrid, but he seized the lead and he's driven away from Sutton. Fantastic.
Out of the chicane, checkered flag at the ready. It is 2 out of 2 for Tom Ingram. He wins again at Donington. Tom Ingram wins race 2 of the season from Ash Sutton in second place, Jake Hill third. Josh Cook comes through for fourth, ahead of Colin Turkington fifth. And for sixth, Dan Camish, battered, just ahead of Adam Morgan. Eighth goes the way of Aidan Moffat. Ninth, Rob Huff. 10th, Dan Rowbottom, so he overtook half the field. 11th, Aaron Taylor-Smith. 12th will be Andrew Watson. Mikey Doble, 13th. Chris Smiley set for 14th, and Darrell DeLeon, 15th from Nick Halstead. Ronan Pearson will be a lap down, but he got the fastest lap of the race, 17th, and Scott Sumpton we lost into the pits along with Tom Chilton. Sam Osborne also, of course, never getting into the race with the earlier damage. But, well, say what you like about the new regulations, but a lot of them were meant to stop people winning race 1 and race 2. Yes. Nobody told Tom Ingram that, because he's done it again by just under a second, and a really impressive drive. Well done, Tom Ingram.
Yes, that has failed at the first hurdle, hasn't it? This was the move up the inside on the exit of Redgate. I believe that Hill was losing the balance. He was losing, I think we'll probably hear him say, lost the rear tyres too quickly, and then Sutton pounced straight away, being the racer that he is. Yeah. And although, yes, we've seen the winner of race 1 win race 2, that's only really because we've had no change in tyre. Sure. The moment we get an option tyre thrown in as well, I think we'll see a difference.
But equally, shows the calibre of driver we've got in the championship still, doesn't it? Tom Ingram takes 2 out of 2. Well, 3 out of 3 is going to be very, very hard indeed.
That's very smoky.
There. Yeah,
that's
Sutton's car. Yeah.
Sutton's car's got a problem. Let's hope it doesn't burst into flames or something. He wants to get that back to the pits, I know, for the team to have a look at it, but he's got a serious issue. But
equally, he's got to go through the technical checks by being in the top 3, so he's going to arrive there first. The smoke's not horrendous, but there's a little bit of it in the cockpit, you could see.
Yeah, he will have shut the engine off, I think, and be freewheeling now, but that will be a serious concern for the team. That looked like oil smoke, didn't it? So whether it was a turbo problem or a real engine problem.
Right, well, the TOCA technical team will be aware of this. Ash Sutton being waved towards the technical area, but yeah, that's a problem that he and the team could well do without right at the very end.
Now, is that oil that the marshal's looking at? Has that come from Sutton's car?
Possibly so.
It's if they have to change the engine, they've got very short amount of time.
Well, we'll keep an eye to that and bring the news as soon as we have it. In the meantime, let's look at the result of round 2. Tom Ingram wins again. Ash Sutton second, Jake Hill third, ahead of Josh Cook fourth and Colin Turkington fifth. Sixth goes to Dan Camish, ahead of Adam Morgan, Aidan Moffat, with Rob Huff and Dan Rowbottom rounding out the top 10. 11th, Aaron Taylor-Smith, ahead of Andrew Watson, then Mikey Doble, Chris Smiley and Darrell DeLeon rounding out the scorers. Nick Halstead and Ronan Pearson. Next, we lost Scott Sumpton and Tom Chilton, and also, of course, poor Sam Osborne, who never got into the race. Now, as far as the championship is concerned, 2 races done, plus the points for leading a lap, fastest lap and pole position after yesterday. Tom Ingram is 10 points ahead of Ash Sutton. Jake Hill is third. Colin Turkington fourth from Josh Cook and Dan Camish. Aidan Moffat seventh from Aaron Taylor-Smith and Ronan Pearson. And to round out the top 10, it's Adam Morgan.